Hey everyone, it's Elo. I hope that you're doing well. In today's video, I wanted to sort of give a little bit of an update or encouragement about a lot of the things that I spoke about in my estranging from toxic family video, which I think was posted last year maybe. I have received just a staggering number of comments through social media, emails, and also just comments on the video itself from others of you out there who have been through or are going through similar situations to what I did, and I guess still am, because it's never really a finished process. And there have just been a lot of thoughts that I've had based on your input, and a lot more that I wanted to share as I've grown more, had more insight, I guess, accessed more insight, and sort of even more come to terms with separating from my family. One of the sort of main things that you all had mentioned to me was how difficult it is to cut those ties, not only because it's rarely what someone truly wants to do, to walk away from people that they otherwise love and want in their life, but also that societal construct and the implications, not only in your own head, thinking that you're doing something wrong, but on top of that, other people not understanding at all. And that is definitely something that I understand, of course, and have had to deal with myself. And so I just wanted to kind of just encourage you guys, and a lot of you seemed a little uncertain still, and considering what a positive impact it has made on my life to go through with those decisions, I have so much love and pouring out that I want to give to you, to encourage you to keep going and not to fold under those pressures that you might be feeling. So I do hope that I can make this as cohesive as possible, and I have my phone nearby just in case I feel like I'm getting off track. I have some points that I wanted to mention, but I'm hoping that I can just speak like I usually do and cover most of what has been on my mind and sparked by your comments and stories. First of all, I don't really, I guess, have the right to be proud of any of you, because I don't technically know you, but it has made me feel excited for a lot of you that you've chosen things to take care of yourself, to better your life, that you've taken the hard route even when you didn't want to, even when other people were making you feel bad, it's been really uplifting to see how many people are recognizing their value and worth, and that is one of the most difficult things to do when you are surrounded by people who put you down. Also, I'm in my bathrobe right now. I have a shirt and clothes on, a regular outfit, but it's really comfortable, and I don't know about you, but on my days off I like to be as comfortable as possible because it's just one of those few things that I can savor to myself. So anyway, get comfortable and we'll get started talking. So a lot of this process happens kind of in waves, and you get to a point where you feel like, you know, I've conquered that thing and now I can move forward. And then something else happens and you're like, oh man, you know, am I regressing? You might start second guessing yourself. It wasn't the right decision to cut these people out of my life. Am I making a mistake? Is there something wrong with me? Why am I the one who's alone? And it kind of just keeps rolling for a long while. And first and foremost, you know, you were in that situation for X amount of years, and you've only been in this situation of, you know, choosing yourself and growing and moving on from family for likely a much shorter amount of time. I think maybe one commenter said that they had been estranged for like a decade and they were in their 50s or 60s, if I remember right. And still, that's a quarter, you know, of the difference. So it is going to be harder. It is going to feel more uncertain and unfamiliar, and it's going to be easy to doubt yourself and to not feel good about it. But as you continue, it gets softer and easier and happier. I know that you will understand what I mean when I say that I'm happier. It's not that I hate my family members or wish them harm or anything. It's that they are just on a very different emotional plane than I am, and the way that they operate makes me feel shitty. And when I tried in the past to tell them that, they didn't even respect me enough to listen to what I was saying, which I think is really all the kind of proof you need that you're making the right decision. People who invalidate your feelings, no matter who they are, no matter if they birthed you or they're your blood relative or they're your best friend, they do not have your best interests in mind. And part of what I wanted to talk about is this concept of narcissism, which they may not be capable of having anyone else's best interests in mind other than their own. And I want to be very clear about a few things before I launch into this part of the discussion. Number one, of course, I'm not certified or in any way a psychiatrist, psychologist. I don't have the means to diagnose anyone. That's not what I'm trying to do. This is speculation and educated guessing based on my reality. And if it resonates with you, I just encourage you to look into it yourself. I still very much advocate for therapy on a personal level for each of you. So I'm not the source of knowledge. I don't claim to be, and I don't want anyone to take what I say as necessarily gospel. Everyone's situation is different, and it would be impossible for me to cover every potential possibility and twist and turn that your situation might have. So it seems very clear to me that my mother specifically likely has some sort of narcissistic personality disorder, and I do believe that these words are kind of thrown around a lot. I think the first time I heard about narcissism was in an English class in middle school or high school maybe, and we were told, the story of Narcissus, and I think, if I remember right, he fell in love with his own reflection, and it was in a lake, like the mirror of the water. He saw himself, and I don't remember if this part is true or if it was a part of a story we were reading or something, but I think he fell in and drowned, and that's kind of like the irony or the moral or something of this idea of, being too self-involved. Who ended up getting hurt? It was Narcissus. Died, drowned. So, why am I saying all this? Okay, well, mainly because I don't want to give the impression that I'm trying to just say, like, this person is full of themselves, or that they think they're physically attractive or something. I'm not just like flippantly using the term narcissism. I am, as much as possible, relating this discussion to the medical psychology definition of narcissism and how that can affect the people who interact with whomever has narcissistic personality disorder. So part of why I feel more bolstered is because my own therapist, based on the stories that I've told to help get through my own emotional baggage, his best guess is that yes, my mom is on some level a narcissist, and to me that makes perfect sense now that I've learned more about what that means. So if you've been watching my videos for quite some time now, especially if you've watched any of my wellness streams, which are in a playlist, they're not ASMR and I'm not like plugging them. I'm just saying that they do exist on this channel if you're interested further in these topics. I talk about them using textbooks that I get from the library to give examples and etc. But if you've been with me for some time now, you've probably heard some of the things that went down between me and my family, and I'm not going to rehash it all, but I do want to talk more about the structure, the foundation of that, and then how it can affect children specifically. And this is all information that I didn't have as good of a hold on in my last video that I made about this topic. So a lot of the things that I've mentioned that have happened when I was still interacting with my family seemed very cruel and unreasonable, and to some people shocking. You know, I did say that a lot of the commenters on my toxic family video could relate, but then there were also some who were just appalled that a parent could treat a child in that way, their child, I should say, in that way. And, you know, I guess I would feel the same way if I hadn't lived it. And this is where I think things get really foggy for those of us who have estranged, is that it's very, very difficult to describe these things to someone else who didn't grow up in that kind of environment. People really are shocked and almost don't think you're telling the truth, like you might be mistaken. Like, well, I'm sure that's not their motive, or that wasn't what they meant, or, you know, they make some excuse in their head because it does sound that ludicrous to them. However, people who have narcissistic personality disorder, they're very complicated. Typically they start off being wounded themselves at a very maybe young age, and they grow this, it's almost like an alter ego, but eventually they become that person, and they are incredibly fragile, but they act the exact opposite. And it's something that they do so regularly and for so long that it becomes their reality. It's a cognitive, like, distortion. It's not, they can't actually see things for what they are at that point. One, because they probably never had the experiences to learn how, and two, because, as I said, they just grow into this person who can do no wrong, and the mere thought or suggestion of them being in the wrong is just shut down right away. They could never handle the thought of being wrong. And that just goes to show how fragile these people really are. They've convinced themselves that they are infallible in order to protect themselves from feeling rejected and lonely and abandoned and lost and whatever other synonyms you can think of. So for example, I've mentioned before that my mother would constantly belittle myself and my friends and the things that I did or liked. Every single time that I showed joy, she jumped on it. I was not allowed to be happy, especially if she felt like I was happier than she was. And I'm gonna say funny to me, but I don't mean that. I'm just using that as like a figure of speech. It's funny to me now that I remember all these times that my father would come to me and say that my mother was very mean. He called her mean, and he said that she would just suck the joy out of his life, and that she was always making mean comments. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I didn't see it yet. And that's been one of the hardest things for me, actually, in this whole process, is that I feel like my dad is, there's a fuzzy, so close to understanding it all, and I feel like he has so much potential to be just like a good and decent person, and he's just so caught up in it for so long and has his own issues that I think that they're in it for life with each other, even if it's god awful. So anyway, he used to say to me, she's mean, she's competitive, she makes things not fun for me. Meanwhile, she was telling me that he was very competitive. And I may have mentioned that, we used to play a lot of family board games, and we did often play things that were competitive, but for us kids, it was fun. It was like spoons, or things where the clock was kind of counting down and there was a lot of yelling and just frantic energy, and that's what we enjoyed and found fun in. But eventually my dad stopped playing, and he would never play, ever. Like, we had to beg him to play, and it would take him a really long time to ever make a move or answer or do anything. And it makes me wonder if he was only thinking about it that thoroughly because he didn't want to deal with my mom attacking him for any mistake, any tiny little mistake that he might have made, because that is what she does. And it's amazing to me that I didn't see that before, but now that I do, I'm like, holy shit, like, this changes my whole perspective on everything. And that, if you have gone through that or you're going to go through that, it's earth shattering. It's like you have no idea who you are or where you came from or what happened those past 20 years. You don't know if you ever really understood. Can you be in the right now if you didn't understand then? Is there some lingering loose end that you need to tie up? Do you need to apologize for things that you didn't recognize? And here's what I have to say to that. No. Even though I do now feel that my father is probably mischaracterized and mistreated, he's still my father, and he still is an adult, and he still didn't raise me or protect me from those things or try to forge a relationship with me, and that those were his decisions. It would only pull me back into all of that nastiness to think that I owed him something. And again, that's probably going to sound harsh to people who don't live it, but that's the truth. You can't budge even a needle's width in these situations, because it's so easy for these toxic people to rope you back in and make you question yourself and your reality and your sanity and your goodness and wholeness as a person and your value and your capability, all of the good things in life. It's not worth it. It's not. And if my father ever wants to reach out to me and, I don't know, try to work something out that doesn't involve my mother, you know, I would be open to that. I don't hate him, but he also hasn't contacted me in 4 years, and he was never close with me for the 26 years before that. So it gets you thinking, you know. In my situation, it's like, well, was he only not close with me because of my closeness with my mom? And did I push him away? Was it my fault? And once again, bigger picture, you are or were the child in the situation. You either are or were the child in the situation. It's not your responsibility to sort out the problems of the people who were supposed to raise you. That's the end stop for those thoughts. It's not fair to blame yourself or to think that you are at fault when you shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. And you had no control over that. And the people who did have control over that, you're now feeling like you owe them something. Like, cut those feelings off real quick, because it's just not. You're just gonna think yourself into a tailspin. It's not worth it. So, jumping back to the narcissism angle, you know, my mom is mean. She is competitive. She is belittling and rude and stingy, you know? She just snipes people. And a lot of that makes sense to me now. You know, stopping me from going to college, making fun of my friends and partners, never really being proud of me or happy for me when something good happened. You know, the easiest example that I've said before probably is when I won a regional poetry competition, and I told her, she said that I was just a big fish in a small pond, meaning that if I were competing against better people than who she imagined or decided I was competing against, that I would have lost. Which is just ridiculous, and it shows you how she can't be happy for other people. She has to be the number one. She needs to be the center of attention. She needs to be on top. The thought of me becoming autonomous, becoming an adult, becoming my own thinking being is and was too much for her, because I was a source of her energy. She, just like she does and did to my dad, would suck the life and happiness out of me in order to inflate herself. And narcissists need that. It's like the same way we all need water and oxygen and food to survive. They need people to just shit on in order to function. So if you're in a narcissist's circle, whether it's your mom, dad, brother, sister, or just a friend or cousin or whatever, just get out. It's never gonna get better, ever. And that's one thing that's like really ever it's not going to get better. There's no blurred line there. There's no question about it. It's built into who they are and has likely been that way for so long that the odds of it changing are just nilch, plain and simple. So these people also, will just any little thing that they can steal from you, they will. And they enjoy it. That's the kind of like sick part that other people don't understand, is like they like seeing you in pain because it makes them feel better. And I see now the times that things were going well for me, my mom always did something to try and ruin it, or just to take me down a peg. Oh, you're a little too happy. Let me, start a fight between you and the person that you're getting along with. Let me leave something in your apartment to embarrass you when you have friends over. Let me just say something mean to you, next time I see you. Oh yeah, let's go out to lunch. Okay, yeah, I'm excited. Let's go out to lunch. And then, what are you wearing? You ordered that. You eat that. What's wrong with your eyebrows? Just, you don't get a break. Narcissists will just eat up anything that you have, and it makes it impossible to grow. And one thing that has been just huge for me is this ability now that I have to grow. I have space in my life to try things and find out who I am, because I haven't been free of that crap all along. It's always been an influencing factor, and that part does feel really scary. It's hard to sit here and think, you know, who am I? This like existential crisis. And it's not like the thought that you have when you're really high and you're like, whoa, what is life? It's like saddening. It hurts. It feels like you've been robbed of potential, and it feels like you shouldn't have to be figuring this out now. And it's the uncertainty, which people don't naturally like, that sucks. It's like, okay, I need something to hold on to because my entire world is changing right now, and I don't know where it's going, and I don't know how it's gonna be. And logically you'd think, well, I've already come this far and done all this for myself. How bad of a person can I be? Like, you know, I'm fighting for myself, so am I really not gonna like myself? Is there really something about me that I should be afraid of? But these people, whether they're narcissistic or otherwise toxic, they convince you that you have no value. And when you live in that space where your brain just constantly tells you that you are worthless and no one's gonna love you, and that's another big cornerstone of the narcissist, is no one's gonna love you like I love you. And they kind of make you worry that you're never gonna find someone. And sometimes it's really subtle and you don't really recognize it. But that's another big thing to kind of look out for or reflect on, depending on where you are in this process. When you're living with that mentality, it's not easy to say what I just said. How bad of a person could I really be? Maybe I'll like myself. That's not even a graspable thought at all. It has taken me months, years at this point to get here where I feel like I do have value. And excuse me, but I'm gonna stick up for myself, because you know what? I'm not so bad. You know, I like myself. I like the way that I think and operate. And you know, I used to get criticized constantly for being too emotional. I like being emotional. I've actually been able to find a fuckload more balance to my emotions now that I don't have these people pushing my buttons all the time. And you know what? It's actually kind of really beautiful to be an emotional person, because you get to connect with other people. Like, you get to see things and be moved and listen to music, or climb to the top of a mountain, or hug someone, kiss someone, make a friend. Like, those things feel amazing. They're wonderful parts of being alive, and when you can really enjoy them and look forward to them and believe that they are going to happen for you, it's a whole different life. You're not the same person anymore, and it's good, and it feels good. And I had a phase a number of months ago where I started feeling really depressed again, because I felt like every time I, did something good or pushed forward, it got harder. And I wasn't being rewarded. I was being almost punished. And finally, I hit this point where I was kind of like floating on happiness. I was excited about my business, feeling good about my friendships at school, just happy for myself, and like truly, genuinely happy for myself. And I had never felt that to that degree before. And almost immediately when I realized that, I became severely suicidal. And it's like, wait, what? Why would you? How could you 180 like that? And why would succeeding make you feel like that? That's literally my brain trying to go back to what it knows. This whole time, that's been the person that I am on the inside. No matter who I present in a video or in person or in class or at the supermarket, no matter what people perceived me as, on the inside, I was always waiting to die, essentially. There was just no hope and I was stringing myself along by very small things, and sometimes those small things would run out and that part of me would come to the surface, and people around me would have to deal with that. And my brain was and still probably is to some degree, because I've only been building these new neural pathways for a short amount of time, but my brain was literally fighting me from moving on, changing its literal anatomy. Just as a quick understanding, I guess, of what I mean, because I do mean this very literally. You have those, I'm sure you've all seen a brain before, and even on a TV show or something, and it has those like lines. It kind of looks like Play-Doh spaghetti or something, and there's all those crevices and then the bumpy parts. Well, those crevices are built. They're not just like how your brain looks. They form or deform or reform based on what you think. Literally. So if you continue to think in a certain way, that valley gets deeper and deeper and deeper until it's the easiest way for your brain to process anything. You see it through this lens of sadness or whatever your feeling is. Mine was definitely like worthlessness, non-deserving. And in my process of not using that valley, as it was, getting smaller and smaller, it was like, no, you cannot get rid of me. You have not seen the last of me. And just burst out as like a, you will not be happy kind of reaction. And that was really hard. And I want to talk about that because it's inevitable if you're changing things like this in your life. You're gonna fall back. You're gonna feel confused. It's not an easy process forward for a number of reasons. So just remember that, and remember what you believe. And I mean, of course, I want to say, like, talk to a therapist, but I know not everyone has the means or the time or the desire even to do that. There are resources online, though. Actually, I was watching a lot of these videos by Dr. Ramani, I think is how you pronounce it. She always says it and I always forget. It's Ramani. She has YouTube videos specifically about like narcissism and how a narcissistic parent affects their child, and it's crazy to hear her say these things, because I'm like, how do you know my life? Like, is this really possible? Are other people really going through this? So I would at least urge you to find something close to what you're experiencing and educate yourself on the consequences of it. Because then when your brain tries to tell you that you can't move forward like you're intending to, you'll know, and you'll be able to understand and comprehend that better. And it's also very like bolstering for those moments when someone might make you feel concerned about your decision, because let's face it, like, we're all human, and it's natural to, even if you know, like, I know that this is the right choice, I know that logically, I know that, but I still have emotions, and it is difficult if someone makes me feel ostracized for the fact that I don't have family. If I can tell that they're judging me for that decision, it's hard. It is hard. Sometimes it's easy, but sometimes it's hard to not second guess yourself or question why things are the way they are. And one thing that has been very interesting for me is that recognizing that, like, I am programmed, or I've been taught to be the exact opposite of how I need to be to get out of this mess. And really think about that. It might sound simple, but it really means something. I have been trained to be the exact opposite of what I need to get out of this situation. So if I need to believe in myself, to recognize my own value and worth, to appreciate myself and honor my own experience, those are all the things that I suck at. literally, like the things that my years of experience living in that environment intentionally took away from me. So when you get to the point where you're kind of like absolving yourself, it's a terrible way to put that, but like, just hopefully you understand what I mean. Like when you're at this point in this place where you have to say, it's not me, it's them. It's so hard to do that because I immediately think, wait, can that really be right? Can I really be right that it's me? What if I'm wrong? Oh my God, what if I'm wrong? You know, like, I feel guilty that you know what it is? I feel like I'm blaming them instead of taking responsibility, because I have been trained to take responsibility for every single fuck up and thing gone wrong ever. That has been my role. So absolving myself / blaming them makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong, even though I'm not. Like, literally on paper, I'm not. I'm doing a great thing for myself, and there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing, no matter what anyone says or thinks. And even with all of this knowledge and power and access to a therapist and everything, it's still hard to believe in myself. There was this list. Let me see. Of, top 10 signs that your mother is a narcissist, which this would probably apply to a father as well. That's just the name of the article. She wants to control you. Her love is conditional. She can't or won't validate your feelings. She belittles you. She tries to manipulate you. She thinks she is above the rules. She is unpredictable. It's all about how things look, appearance. She cannot see your point of view, and she is emotionally volatile. That's my childhood. That's my life when my mom was in it. To a T, No, you can't go off to college. No, your achievements don't mean anything. No, your friends aren't worth me even learning their names after 4 years. No, you're no good at that. No, you don't look good in that outfit. The manipulations, again, appearance, always picking on me for my hair or my belly or my whatever. Like, I didn't have a parent who told me I was perfect the way I was. I didn't have a parent who even said that I was pretty. The closest I can remember my mom ever getting to saying something like that was when I put my hair up in a bun for an event I was going to, and she told me, "Oh, you should have straightened your hair. It always looks so pretty when you straighten your hair." That's not a compliment. That's telling me I made a mistake with what I did, and that I would have been pretty had I only straightened my hair, but she didn't, so poor you. It's terrible. Like, it makes you feel like every single thing you do is wrong. So obviously when you start doing things for yourself, you feel like you're doing something wrong. I hope that logic makes sense to those of you who need it, because I know that some of you need it. Also, the bits about the emotional volatility. It was always very difficult to predict what version of my mother I was going to receive on any given day, and it could change very quickly. And that made me nervous about people in general. You know, it's hard when you're not sure if you're going to get the nice version, or what you think is the nice version, or the overtly angry version, or if you're just going to get yelled at that particular day for doing something that you do every day. Not knowing makes you like constantly have to be on guard. You can't be vulnerable with people. You can't share your opinion, or even, you know, the smallest things. It's like, oh, sorry, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, was I in your way? Sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that, sorry. I've said sorry to people who sometimes look at me like, the fuck? Why are you apologizing to me? Like, people I don't really know. If I walk in front of someone for like a brief second and it was clearly an accident, I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. And they're just like, move the fuck on. Like, I don't want to talk to you. And for me, though, that was like a potential moment of getting in trouble. You know, like, feeling bad is how I guess you would translate that into adulthood. Is like just being made to feel like a fuck up in that tiny little moment. And that's what people don't understand. I'm apologizing all the time because it's an automatic response because of the emotionally volatile household I was raised in. I always had to be sorry just in case. And the one time that I wasn't sorry is what led me here to where I am now. And even in that last fight, you can see almost every single quality that was on that list in just this one interaction. I got blamed for something going wrong. I was scapegoated. My mother tried to act like she was above the rules when I told her that she couldn't speak to me in the incredibly rude and just shitty way that she was speaking to me. She said, yes, I can, which is just, no, you can't, actually. That's not cool. She was outwardly lying about the events that were happening, like, in front of my very eyes, and tried to convince me that a conversation we had didn't happen. And even tried to tell me that didn't happen after I told everyone first that was what I had said. Like, I just said, well, my idea was to blah blah blah, but you said no. And then she tried to be like, you never said blah blah blah. Okay, why did I just make that up then? Like, every little thing that she could have possibly tried to do in that situation, even down to scolding me in front of my then new boyfriend who was meeting them. And earlier that day she was really creepy with like when he got up from the couch to do something with one of my brothers, she came and sat in his spot and was like hugging on me, which is super fucking weird to me because our household was not touchy-feely. We didn't do hugs and kisses like that. We didn't cuddle or touch that much. So it was just slimy and like, what are you doing? Like, get off of me. It was like every single thing she could do to try to stop me from having this good life with this person who I really liked, she was going to do. And she tried every single trick in her book, and I don't think that she ever was expecting me to stand up for myself, because she had trained me not to. Yeah, I hope that that makes sense. These people will make every last ditch effort to keep you in their box, and it feels a lot fucking better outside of the box. A lot better. Yeah. So I really hope that those of you out there who are wondering if you made the right choice, you know if you made the right choice. If your people you cut out of your life made you feel bad consistently, you made the right choice. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. It doesn't matter what society expects of us. Some people are just shitty people, and nothing stops them from having or raising kids. Nothing stops them from, being a parent. Shitty people are just shitty people. And it's lucky that we are not. It's lucky that we have the qualities that we do to not become like a mini-me of them, because a lot of people do. And I think that my brothers, at least one, maybe all three of them, have taken on a lot of those shitty qualities to the point where their sister doesn't mean anything to them. Not worth it. I'm the problem, obviously. Like, they're intelligent boys, and they can't see something this obvious. Not my fucking problem. Sorry. Just not. And I hope that when you have instances of these people trying to rile you up, because they will, until you have gotten so far away from them that they don't even know how to contact you, which I'm expecting I will be able to accomplish within the next 2 years. Lord, please. They will, every once in a while, try to provoke you. For example, one of my younger brothers randomly sent me a birthday text this year for the first time in 4 years. Why'd you do that? We still don't talk. You never replied to the last thing that I said to you, like almost a year ago. The fuck are you sending me a happy birthday text for? This Christmas, my older brother invited me to Christmas at his house with my whole family and said, I know that you've had problems with this or that, but just come be our sister for a day. What? It's so crazy to me that I had seriously been hurting and falling apart and begging them for help and telling them these facts, this evidence, these truths that are indisputable. This isn't just how I feel. There's more to it than that. And for him to just brush it all off like, oh yeah, I know you've had problems with this or that, but you know, if you want to, I'm not going to tell anyone I'm inviting you, but you're welcome to come to Christmas at my house. No, I'm not fucking coming. Don't text me. Don't bother me, because I don't have anything to do with you anymore. You made that decision. I tried everything in my power to not make it be that way, and that was your choice. I'm not gonna go out of my way now to try to tell you why you're wrong, or I'm never going to text back. Ever. It's just not gonna happen unless they say something that shows true, change, a true promise for a better relationship that's healthy. It's not happening. And I think I've blocked all their numbers at this point. I know my parents are blocked. I just assumed my brothers wouldn't text me because they hadn't for so long, so I think I just didn't go through the trouble. Although I think it's a lot easier on iPhone now. But anyway, I'll look into that. But do that, block these people. Don't tell them your address. Don't give them access to you, because it's not gonna do anything good. I also had, my mom sent me an email to an old email address that I keep because it's tied to a lot of stuff that I can't transfer. And she sent me this email, maybe it was in December, and gave me a rundown of what was happening with their family. And she covered mainly low points, sympathy type stuff that I guess I was supposed to feel bad about. And her whole thing was that she was asking me to come pick up my things because they'll be moving at some point. Obviously, I'm not gonna go fucking pick up my things because it would be unhealthy for me to be in their presence. I'm not going to do that to myself. So I offered to pay to have it shipped. She said that wasn't an option. So then I offered to have a moving company come bring it all to me. And she said, okay, I'll get back to you. Haven't heard from her since, and that's fine. But there's this little part of me that's there's a good chance that she's gonna hold on to all this stuff and not let me take it because she thinks it's some sort of manipulation, bargaining chip. And sorry, honey, it's not. There's nothing on God's green earth that's going to convince me to fall back into that sinkhole. It's just not going to happen. And that's the energy that I want you to have too. Just don't do it. Choose yourself. Keep fighting for yourself. It gets easier. You get more confident. Things get brighter and happier, and you get to choose. And isn't that nice? And hopefully you'll surround yourself with people who do have your best interests in mind and who champion your choices. And if they do give you some criticism, it's because they love and care about you, and it's logical, and it's not meant to cut you down. It's just maybe playing devil's advocate, or showing you another side of things. Never to just stifle your growth as a human being. So you deserve that. I hope that you keep pushing for it. It's the greatest feeling. Ignore them when they try to poke you. Just ignore them. It's not going to do anything. Grieve the loss and just accept that it's over. That they are not people you want in your life. And if they weren't related to you, you would have left them a long time ago. The first, second, third, and eighth time that they fucked you over and made you feel like shit. Right? So, I hope that this video was helpful for some of you, and thank you again for all of your comments. I do read them all. I'm going to do my best to go back and reply to them all, and I'll see you in my next video.